Once upon a time, in the swamps of New Orleans, where the Mississippi River whispered ancient secrets, Adeline stood by the riverbank, watching moonlight shatter on the water's surface. In her hand was a shell necklace found in the grass after a storm, glinting like a summons from the supernatural. Who left it here, she wondered, heart pounding as distant voodoo drums echoed. Adeline, Jacob's first wife, once the pride of the African-American community, with her beauty, wisdom, now found her home chilled by the silence of a womb that would never bear a child's cry. When Jacob brought Selah, his second wife, into their house, a dark mystery began. Selah was pregnant, but the child refused to be born, though her belly grew month after month. Whispers of a curse spread through the village. And then, in a dream, Adeline saw a mermaid, eyes star-bright, singing of a buried secret. Is Selah's child a blessing or a curse? Join us on African Tales to find out. Adeline stepped to the riverbank under a full moon's glow, her neatly braided hair swaying with each gentle breeze. Her white linen dress hugged her form, reflecting silver light like a stray star in the misty swamp. Long the heart of New Orleans' black community, Adeline led warm prayer gatherings in the small riverside church, taught children to read, kept hope's flame alive for struggling families. Yet that hope was also her unyielding pain, realizing she could never bring a child's cry to her hearth. Each night, as voodoo drums echoed from the deep dark, her heart felt knifed, tears silently soaking her pillow. Jacob, the husband she once loved fiercely, now bore a face etched with worry. His eyes often drifted, seeking something beyond reach. Sweet promises of old had faded, replaced by an invisible distance. Finally, on a radiant moonlit night, as mist silvered the water, Jacob returned from a ceremony across the river, no longer the man she knew. Beside him stood Selah, a young woman with a voice soft as a mournful lullaby, eyes cast down, veiling countless secrets. Before Adeline, Jacob said softly, "She'll be my second wife." His voice was arid, a sword piercing her chest. Adeline nodded faintly, as if entranced, though every cell in her screamed to refuse. Instead, she swallowed the pain, pressing it to her core. Selah showed no pride or boast. She smiled gently, sweeping the yard, cooking, lighting prayer candles at night. Her presence was a cold breeze through cypress branches, making Adeline's familiar space feel alien. Each of Selah's steps on the wooden floor stirred a tumult of emotions in Adeline. Jealousy, resentment, then curiosity. She wondered, did this woman carry a hidden mystery, tucked in the folds of her thin dress? One night, as the moon rose high, the swamp hushed. Adeline ventured alone to the river's edge. The breeze carried sweet silt. Suddenly, from the inky water, a shadowy figure emerged. A mermaid surfaced amid shimmering ripples, long hair cloaking her back, skin glinting emerald under moonlit streaks. Her song rose, ethereal like prophecy. Blood calls to blood, but only darkness answers. Each note hissed through Adeline's ears, her heart racing. The shell bracelet in her hand burned hot, as if her very blood ignited. She choked, grappling with the song's meaning, but the eerie voice dissolved into the water's lapping. Fear and curiosity surged, signaling something beyond ordinary reason. From that moment, Adeline couldn't banish the mermaid's image. She wondered, was Selah, the second wife, tied to this supernatural force? Why did she always lower her gaze, her past unknown, and the shell bracelet, found after a storm in the grass by the door, mere chance? The mystery gripped her, fiercer than any pain. Each morning, Selah offered thanks at a small riverside altar, her eyes lifted to the calm water where fish glinted, darting past. Once Adeline saw Selah whispering, as if answering the waves, but she turned silently when spotting Adeline watching. Selah's gaze held no threat, but a steadfast faith, like one shielded by an unseen power. New Orleans' sky then brimmed with misty rain, aquatic grass scents. Night was ink black, the moon sole companion. Sometimes, under a waning moon, Adeline stood at the window gazing at empty streets, wondering if the mermaid was just a sleepless hallucination. But the bracelet never cooled, and that song echoed in her mind each time she closed her eyes. Meanwhile, Jacob seemed oblivious to his first wife's changes. He busied with Selah, tending her with warmth once reserved for Adeline. At meals, he held Selah's hand tenderly, while Adeline sat distant, swallowing tears with each spoonful of steaming gumbo. Sometimes she wanted to scream, expose Selah for exploiting her sacrifice, but the cry broke in her throat. One afternoon, as the sun sank behind cypress trees, Adeline resolved to face the truth. She brought the shell bracelet to the swamp, resting her hand on the water's surface. Her heart felt blood flowing backward, a link across generations, not just flesh, but a curse carved deep in ancient voodoo culture. She envisioned solemn rituals, night chants, souls lurking in the swamp. Before her, Selah appeared, black hair gleaming like night converged, eyes staring intently. No words passed, but they understood each other beyond 1,000 speeches. Selah stepped forward, tilted her head, smiled faintly. She seemed to read every question. Raising a hand, she touched the bracelet lightly, then turned, vanishing into the dark. Adeline watched her receding figure, unease swelling. She vowed not to relent until the secret was hers. The river flowed quietly, but each ripple bore a challenge. Only when Adeline found courage would she unveil the curse stalking her family. That night etched her mind, moon glinting on water, the bracelet glowing red in her hand, the mermaid blurring into mist. Adeline knew her life would never be tranquil again. Voodoo dreams, midnight drums, whispers from ancient lips would guide a twisting tale, both terrifying and mesmerizing. At this riverbank, under the silent moon, Adeline stepped onto a path seeking truth. Despite gut-wrenching pain, love's betrayal, she resolved to uncover whether Selah, the second wife, was the key to a curse, or its unwitting victim. She didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. That moonlit night would mark their family's history, launching a perilous, sacrificial journey. 6 months passed, like a long sigh in Adeline's life, news spreading through New Orleans community with the speed of fire through dry leaves. Selah was pregnant, a miracle to Jacob, but a sharp dagger aimed at Adeline's heart. Congratulations echoed across the neighborhood. Red velvet cakes arrived, admiring glances fell on the second wife. Meanwhile, Adeline locked herself in the small back room, letting tears stain her pillow. Each night, as wind hissed through the window, she heard the river's ripples outside, like the swamp itself sighing, sharing her raw pain. Selah never flaunted her joy. At dawn, she stood by the river, hands clasped, eyes gently closed, whispering prayers. Her belly grew daily, a perfect mysterious orb, full of promise. But that gentleness only deepened Adeline's unease. She noticed strange behaviours. Selah's gaze fixed on the swamp's black depths, where thick silt settled. She muttered unintelligible syllables like invocations to an unseen force. Her eyes didn't look to the future, but searched something deep in the water. One crescent moon night with fog blanketing the swamp, Adeline woke to a lilting lullaby. Through a cracked door, she saw Selah on the wooden steps, hands extended, lips humming a vague melody. The song rose in the still air, recalling the mermaid's chant from Adeline's dream. Blood calls to blood, but only darkness answers. Soft as a whisper, sweet yet mournful, it chilled the air. Adeline's chest tightened, her heart clenched, as if an invisible hand gripped it. The tension peaked when unnatural movements in Selah's belly became undeniable. At first, faint taps, like someone drumming inside, soon grew into violent jolts, her stomach rippling like a boat on stormy waves. Neighbours whispered of eerie cries from Selah's room, like wind howling through cypress trees. They called the unborn child unnatural, a being half moon, half shadow, not of this world. Torn by jealousy and curiosity, Adeline secretly resolved to follow Selah. She trailed the pregnant woman through muddy paths, past waterlogged bushes, to a clearing by the river. There, under silver moonlight, a group knelt before a bald voodoo priest, his eyes piercing souls. Voodoo drums pounded fiercely, blending with the wheeze of flickering oil lamps. White powder traced a circle, symbol of the divide between living and dead. Selah sank to the ground, long hair veiling her face as she bowed, hands on her belly. The priest chanted ancient incantations, voice deep like the swamp's growl. Suddenly, from the dark water, the mermaid's form emerged, ethereal, shimmering, emerald eyes glinting. The river stilled, winds ceased, leaving only drums, curses echoing. The mermaid pointed at Adeline, mouth gaping, whispering hoarsely, "The child doesn't belong to her." An icy chill raced down Adeline's spine. She trembled, heart choked, as if her soul plunged into an endless abyss. Selah's eyes flicked, unsurprised, as if long awaiting this. She closed them briefly, gripping a wooden rail, and when they opened, they blazed with resolute faith. Adeline wanted to scream, drag Selah to confront the curse, but paralyzing fear froze her. Back home, sleep eluded Adeline. The ritual, voodoo drums, the mermaid's whisper pounded her mind. The next morning at the worn wooden table, she stared at the calendar, realizing over half a month had passed since Selah's secret rites began. A resolve surged. She must uncover the curse's origin, whether the mysterious child was blessing or calamity. Piece by piece, Adeline gathered clues. The lullaby on the steps, morning prayers, odd glances at the swamp, now the riverside ritual. She pieced together history's fragments. Long ago, Jacob's ancestors destroyed a sacred river temple, banishing water spirits. A curse. New blood must pay. Echoed through generations, marking their lineage with endless woe. Adeline saw it wasn't mere superstition, but a spiritual wound bleeding across time. Yet the secret lay buried under time's silt. Adeline dove into her search, scouring the church's small library, seeking ancient texts, meeting the village's eldest for scraps of lore. Each tale was incomplete, a fleeting echo fading fast. She wondered if Selah's unborn child was the sole key to the curse. But if so, would stopping its birth be cruel? Or must she accept a greater sacrifice to atone for ancestors? Across the river, Selah lived as two beings, a tender mother to her unborn, and an ethereal soul communing with nameless forces. She didn't shrink from Adeline's probing gaze. Instead, she often smiled as if reading her thoughts. One night, Adeline overheard Selah's talk with a strange, inhuman figure. Realizing Selah wasn't merely a victim, she might be a bridge or the key to breaking the curse. On a stormy night, New Orleans' sky bled red, lightning flaring. Adeline chose to confront Selah. She sought the small shack by the swamp where Selah prayed. Selah stood back to the wind, hands cradling her belly, rain drumming dry leaves like voodoo beats. Adeline approached, heart pounding, words caught in her throat. Only 2 steps away, she blurted one question. "Who did you promise before carrying this child?" Selah turned slowly. Her eyes, gentle yet cryptic, mirrored moonlit waves. Without speaking, she tilted her head, whispering, "This seed chose me, before I could choose it. Only when it ripens will curse and blessing reveal themselves." Her face flickered with sorrow, like one bearing an eternal duty. Adeline stepped back, fear weighing heavy. She knew breaking the curse meant treading a path none dared, uncovering the mysterious seed's truth, whether it spelled doom for their lineage or a miracle's spark. Selah, the second wife, was no mere rival but witness, ally, or foe in this tale. The river murmured, carrying the swamp's whispers. Dark nights ahead promised chilling discoveries, nameless sacrifices, tears mingling with blood. The child's fate, the clan's destiny, would unveil only when the mysterious seed bloomed. And Adeline, however pained, couldn't turn away. She had to press forward into Voodoo's dream realm, ready to pay the price for truth, even if it buried all hope. The 9th month passed in heavy silence, like an invisible black curtain separating Seela from the outside world. In the small upstairs room, she lay weary, yet her eyes still burned with unwavering faith. Each morning, as dawn softly broke, Seela went to the riverbank, kneeling before gentle ripples, hands on her belly, as if speaking to the stirring life within. She prayed quietly, lips moving with hymns, believing God would fulfill a miracle. "I trust you'll give this baby to the world," she whispered to the silt-scented breeze. Meanwhile, beyond the thin wall, Adeline listened to Seela's every breath. She didn't know when she'd become an eavesdropper, but curiosity clung fiercely. One evening, as distant voodoo drums faintly echoed, Adeline pressed her ear to the wall, murmuring, "If this is truly God's work, why won't the child be born?" Her voice was so soft only she heard it. Moonlight through the window cast blurred streaks on the wall, as if questioning the unsolved enigma. The 10th month, then the 11th, time stretched endlessly. New Orleans doctors accustomed to mysterious pregnancies shuddered at Seela's case. They called the child a rare phenomenon, strong heartbeat, frequent movement, yet no sign of labour. All vitals were stable, no threat to mother or child, except it wouldn't emerge. Each ultrasound showed a vague face, tiny feet, groping hands, but Seela's womb seemed sealed forever. Seela rejected all surgical advice. Doctors urged, relatives scolded, even Jacob, her husband, fretted, but Seela held firm. She clung to ironclad faith. "My God will complete this work." Her words, both prayer and shield, guarded her soul against doubt. Within, Seela knew she bore a duty greater than her life, a destiny etched in bloodlines, rooted in the past. New Orleans community, ever curious about the strange, began shunning Seela. Rumours raced, times frozen in her womb. "Seela's child isn't normal." Many turned away, avoiding her gaze, fearing the swamp's curse. Village children fled when Seela passed their gates, shouting "Swamp Witch" before vanishing into the fading dusk. Their fearful eyes stung Seela, but she persisted with riverside prayers, undeterred by malicious whispers. One moonless night, the swamp's water black as ink, Adeline passed by. She paused, spotting Seela standing silently by the shore. Seela cradled her belly, eyes fixed on the still water, softly singing. The melody, gentle yet aching, echoed in the void like an ancient reverberation. Wordless, its notes soared, then fell like night dew. Adeline's heart raced, drawn into an ancient drumbeat where nature's laws unravelled. The next day, rumours of Seela's enchanting night song spread. People claimed she sang with the Mermaid, spoke to a spirit beneath the swamp. Though gossip, to Adeline, it was a vital clue unveiling another reality, one where Seela and her child were central. She recalled the whisper in cold water. The child doesn't belong to her. The mermaid's gaze had pierced her soul, leaving an indelible mark. It wasn't until Seela's unnatural pains began, her belly convulsing beyond any normal pregnancy, that Adeline truly panicked. One night, as wind lashed like it would tear the makeshift roof, Seela doubled over, clutching her stomach, writhing as if battling an unseen force. Faint hisses escaped, cold sweat beading her brow. Adeline heard each sound, and in a moment, amid the wind's howl, thought she sensed a breath from within Seela's womb. Not human, but spectral, otherworldly. Horror and rage surged in Adeline. The next morning she confronted Jacob on the porch, his face weary, etched with anxious lines. Before he could speak, she shouted, "What's she carrying, a soul or a monster?" Her voice trembled, eyes red, as if to rip the secret from thin white cloth. Jacob didn't answer, head bowed. His silence stretched, the garden wind chimes mocking bitterly. Finally he sighed, voice drained. "I don't know any more, Adeline. I'm terrified too." Tears rolled down Adeline's cheek. She felt she'd lost the past, yet hadn't grasped the lurking truth. The family secret, once hers and Seela's alone, now cracked wide. a bond woven by love, duty, shattered, yielding to suspicion, fear. In that moment, Adeline was certain a curse was at work, a curse from Jacob's ancestors, touching flesh and soul. Nights bled into days, every sound sharp. Insects gnawed leaves, winds rustled ghostly shapes, and deep in the swamp, the mermaid silently watched. Her image haunted Adeline's closed eyes, stealing sleep. She began noting everything. Sela's sounds, bodily shifts, pains, moonlit songs. She recorded the voodoo priest's chants from memory, Jacob's anxious glances, dream whispers. When the child awakens, all fate will blaze. Adeline wondered, awaken how? Was this child tied to a force beyond humanity? Or was it heaven's test of their faith? She realized she couldn't face this alone. Sela, though a stranger who became part of this home, was now witness to the uncanny. That woman, with eyes piercing darkness, might hold the key. But unlocking it meant facing Adeline's deepest fear. The child might not bring hope, but calamity. One afternoon, as the sun sank behind cypress trees, the family gathered at a silent dinner table. Sela faced Adeline, voice soft. "I know you're worried, sister." Her eyes brimmed with faith. Adeline replied with a faint nod, turning away to hide welling tears. The room fell quiet, only clinking cutlery breaking the stillness. Time seemed to pause, awaiting a turning point. As the oil lamp flickered, Adeline knew she wouldn't sleep tonight. In this hushed moment, amid the old house's wheezing breaths, the swamp's distant lullaby, she felt clearly truth awaited unveiling, the curse poised to emerge. Only by knowing the child's nature could they choose the path ahead, keep or release, sacrifice or accept. But every choice held life or death weight, touching the soul's core, destined to write an unforeseen end. The second year passed, Sela's belly still swollen like a crescent moon never full. By now, the timeline, 9 months, 10, 12, stretching near 2 years, had become both marvel and terror in New Orleans community. The small rooms at the end of the muddy road now seemed to harbour a deadly secret. At night, as swamp chill swept the roof, people glimpsed a shadow flitting past Sela's window, ghostly in the mist. Some swore they heard a lullaby unlike any earthly song, rising from the underworld, deep and mournful, clutching the hearts of all who heard. Adeline could no longer curb the restlessness within. She'd endured Sela's silence, the community's gossip, but now the cold, growing mystery threatened to erupt. She resolved to seek Mama Zora, the folk healer living alone at the swamp's edge, a place few dared approach. They said Mama Zora communed with river spirits, forces unseen by mortal eyes. Her image, stooped back, silver hair, eyes cloudy as deep lakes, stirred both fear and curiosity in Adeline. Adeline, glimpsing this through a misty window, felt her pain sliced by a knife. Sela's struggle with her own body stirred both pity and horror. All her buried resentment, jealousy, fear, curiosity burst forth. She saw Sela not just as Jacob's usurper, but as one bearing a force beyond human control. Adeline wondered if Jacob knew anything. The once vibrant husband, passionate by her side, now dodged her gaze. He appeared in the house, clutching an old Bible, sitting silently on a porch stool, face haggard like a patriarch witnessing his second daughter's horrific fate. When Adeline pressed, Jacob evaded, eyes brimming, speechless. She knew the family secret had cracked, splintering like shattered glass, beyond emotion, touching ageless taboos. The tragedy peaked when a summer storm swept the swamp. Night flickered with lightning, winds howled through door cracks, the house creaking. Voodoo drums sounded, not just nightly but from the swamp's depths, mingling with thunder. Adeline woke amid the chaos, heart leaping. She heard drums echo through the village, summoning lost souls. Without hesitation, she donned a thin coat, trudging through flooded paths to the river. In the night's tumult, Sela stood defiant, wet hair clinging to her shoulders, eyes blazing like fog lamps in mist. The storm raged, but Sela didn't yield. She raised her arms, head tilted to the roiling sky, as if communing with an unseen force. The river churned wild waves, winds swirled with voodoo drums, forming a chaotic symphony. In that moment, Adeline realized Selah wasn't merely a victim. She was a conduit, bridging the worlds of man and water. Selah's eyes flashed an eerie light, as if seeing all. As Adeline approached, Selah spun, her half-smile gentle yet sinister. Winds whipped her dress, revealing a belly defying limits. Waves lapped her ankles, as if pulling her to the river's heart. Selah met Adeline's gaze, voice cutting through the gale. Look closely, Adeline. This curse, unburied, lives in our blood. Only when the water consumes it will its echo cease. Adeline fought rising terror, eyes locked on Selah. She shuddered, imagining what writhed beneath that soaked cloth. Selah's drenched hair clung to her pale face, highlighting uncanny green eyes, not human, but like clear river gems. In that instant, Adeline understood. Selah and the child weren't just cursed, they were one with it. Winds shoved Adeline like waves, but she stood firm, nearing Selah. Before all, she shouted, "Tell me, what's destroying our lives? What curse haunts this family?" Her voice pierced the storm, scattering misty rain. Selah didn't answer, closing her eyes, arms still skyward. Only when the voodoo drums slowed, winds calmed, did she open them, glancing at Adeline. In flickering light, she whispered, "No one can break this curse, but the one who carries it." The word stabbed Adeline's heart. She didn't grasp who the one who carries it was. Selah, the child, or herself. Everything blurred, tangled like a dense net. In that moment, the sky cleared, the moon emerging from black clouds, illuminating two women by the river. Adeline, eyes full of doubt, and Selah, with a smile both gentle, strange. A whisper from another reality echoed faintly, opening the mystery's final door. That night, as the storm faded, the swamp returned to silence. Voodoo drums lingered only in the minds of the awake. Adeline trudged home rain-soaked, heart racing with fear, rage. She knew a long, thorny path lay ahead, decoding the curse, the fate binding this child, and whether it could be broken to save their lineage. At the door, she glimpsed Jacob through the shut window. He sat leaning on the porch rail, clutching the old Bible, eyes heavy with sorrow. Adeline tapped lightly, voice hoarse. "Jacob, we must face the truth." In the oil lamp's flicker, she saw, despite fear and resentment, they'd need to clasp hands and press on, through the curse, through fate, to find light for the future. For only when the curse spoke could truth's voice resound. And the final battle to protect Selah's soul, the child's their own, would begin now. By the 7th year, Selah appeared at the foot of a sacred hill on New Orleans' outskirts like a wraith in the fog. Gaunt, pale, she climbed barefoot, hands clutching her dress's hem, eyes fixed on the summit, where prophets once invoked unseen forces. With each step upward, Selah felt the child's heartbeat in her womb surge, as if straining to break invisible chains binding it through countless moons. Her blood ran hot, mingling with night dew on leaves, signaling a journey not just of flesh, but a clash between soul and fate. In the still void, nearing footsteps echoed. An old man, frail, silver-haired, face crisscrossed with wrinkles. He paused, eyes deep as if piercing lifetimes, voice rasping through the air. "You've come to face truth, but first, prove your faith." From his pocket, he drew a vial of white powder, placing it on a nearby stone, then bid Selah kneel on a spread mat. "Fast 21 days. The spirit in you watches, but it's not ordinary. It's restrained, its purity stolen." He handed her a yellowed Bible, pages browned by time. Only his word can purify. Selah didn't hesitate. She curled the mat under a wind-swept hollow, set the Bible on her lap, and nodded. Before the old man's gaze, she closed her eyes, hands on her belly, embracing gnawing hunger, searing thirst born of trembling faith. Outside, dusk fell, igniting a faint golden glow on wild grass, as if guiding lost souls. On the 12th night, as sleep threatened to overpower her will, Seela sank into a bizarre dream. She saw two colossal figures wrestling atop the hill. One wore an iron thorn crown, silver glinting through mist. The other, faceless, a skeletal maw dripping blood, fangs massive, poised to rend all life. Their roars echoed, drowning distant voodoo drums, shaking earth and stone. Awakening, Seela felt pinpricks flickering across her body, blood seeping from her legs onto sand, her belly sinking, yet the child refused birth. Pain stabbed like a knife through flesh and soul, but she knew surrender wasn't an option. Nearby, Adeline secretly watched from cypress shadows. She saw the mermaid emerge by the shore, skin mottled, glowing like shattered moonlight. Her song rose in the night. Blood demands a price, souls must be freed. The melody gripped Adeline's heart, trembling her. Long had she seen Scylla as a rival stealing family joy, but now, witnessing this otherworldly scene, she realized Seela was caught in a vortex beyond rivalry, a curse she'd never imagined. The next day, Adeline approached Seela, eyes quivering. "What did you do to bring this curse to my home?" Her voice rang in the chilly dawn, silencing garden birds. Seela only smiled gently, eyes profound, piercing all questions. "I didn't choose it," she whispered, voice silken yet potent. "It chose me, and I won't let this curse destroy another soul." The sun cast a faint golden ray, illuminating Scylla's face, her smile enigmatic. Their talk barely began when the sky greyed, black clouds churning, heralding a storm. That night, New Orleans' outskirts plunged into darkness as power failed. The silence was haunting, pierced by buzzing mosquitoes, rustling leaves, like an ecosystem awakening. Adeline sat by the window, heart twisting, then heard moans from Seela's room, moans blending with a lullaby, not human, but like waves crashing on jagged rocks. The sound seeped through thin walls, shaking the floor, pulling Adeline's mind into an abyss. She rushed over, the door ajar, revealing Seela in flickering oil lamp light. Seela knelt on an old mat, hands on her belly, eyes shut, lips murmuring a distant melody. In candlelight, she appeared a sacred figure, dress soaked with sweat, tears. Adeline approached, hand trembling, clutching the shell necklace at her chest. She breathed, "Seela, But Seela didn't turn. Her song echoed, "You're chosen, yet also bound. Tonight the curse speaks its last." Adeline felt the invisible wall between them collapse. No longer personal enmity, all was swallowed by the secret. Her soul quaked, sinking with voodoo drums outside, weaving a chaotic melody of human and supernatural. A fierce gust slammed Seela's door shut, leaving Adeline rooted in muddy rainwater. In that utter silence, she murmured, "Must we face it, or will this curse devour our souls?" Only rain answered, the swamp's water seething, awaiting something horrific to erupt. In the 10th year, as dusk fell, the air thickened under a pitch-black sky. Seela stood in the yard, barefoot on damp earth, icy winds hissing through door cracks, carrying swamp mist across the garden. She tilted her head, eyes shimmering, as if heeding an unseen call. "It's coming." The whisper didn't rise from her lips, but seemed to echo from deep within, where the strange life had lurked for years. Then the house's walls groaned, mortar cracking as if heralding an approaching storm. Fierce gusts tore through the darkness, ripping window boards, flooding the air with chill, making hallway candles sway. The night was thick with tempest, but for Seela, this was no mere storm. It was a birthing storm, a mortal struggle between supernatural force and the flesh she bore. As labour pains struck, unlike any birth doctors had seen, the old house's corridors fell into an eerie hush. Seela writhed, her screams not born of ordinary pain, but a primal roar, as if a being fought to break free from human bounds. The pain came not in steady waves, but as savage surges, drowning her repeatedly, her body convulsing violently. The midwife, an elderly woman, stern-eyed, seasoned by decades of tough cases, stepped back, brow furrowing as she watched Seela thrash. She leaned in, muttering a single trembling grave sentence. "That thing is older than this world." Refusing to enter the birthing room, she left a crushing dread on those present. Pain and fear silenced Seela's cries, her arms clutching her belly, as if to hold the unborn child close. At the birthing room's threshold, Adeline stood frozen, trembling hand gripping a worn crucifix, eyes fixed on a wall-mounted cross. Fear slithered silently, cold sweat beading her brow. Every religious belief, every prayer she'd chanted seemed to vanish in this stifling space. She whispered inwardly, if God was here, would he answer her plea, or was he too subdued by a force beyond reason? Suddenly, the door swung open, untouched. Dim candlelight within spilled out, casting a hazy glow. Seela lay curled amid tangled blankets, white dress soaked in sweat, face pale as spent ash. Beside her, a tiny being stirred. It was no ordinary newborn, but the curse's embodiment, whispered of for years. The child gazed at the world with eyes too large for its small face, glistening as if holding a deep ocean. Its skin, thin as paper, seemed fragile enough for a breeze to chill. When it opened its mouth, no innocent cry came, but a strange, chilling melody, like waves crashing on rocky cliffs at night. The candle flared, then snuffed out, plunging the room into thick darkness, broken only by wind and the child's heartbeat, shaking the air. Adeline, in the hallway's flickering lamplight, collapsed onto the creaking floor. She mumbled fractured Bible verses, lips trembling in prayer, but the words choked in her throat, fading into echoes. Cold sweat mixed with helpless tears. Now, the child was no hope for Jacob, but a symbol of a grim curse, threatening their lineage. Jacob, for the first time in years, was a frail figure before this newborn. He rushed to Seela, barefoot on cold wood. Seeing the child, his sunken eyes widened, face utterly ashen. He knelt beside his wife, hand on her shoulder, whispering her father's name as if begging aid from the departed. Each syllable carried aching sorrow, a prayer to shield Seela, the child, from a fearsome fate. In Adeline's dream that night, the mermaid appeared amid torrential rain, eyes blending grief, cruelty. Her lullaby echoed, "It's not human, it's your blood's curse." The voice, sharp as a fated blade, carved into Adeline's heart. She woke, heart pounding, breath ragged, feeling an unseen hand touch their lineage's veins, stirring an unstoppable river of destiny. Now the family secret began to unravel. Jacob's ancestors, in a power struggle against nature's forces, had raised a sacred river temple, binding its spirit to a shell necklace. That act, a crime defying water's powers, ignited a vicious curse. The betrayed, enraged river spirit cursed Jacob's line, dooming each generation with a monstrous seed, never human. The candle's light died, leaving 3 exhausted souls in darkness. Selah, writhing beside the strange child, Jacob trembling, clutching wife and babe. Adeline, gripping her broken crucifix, clinging to fading hope. The birthing storm had ended, not with maternal joy, but opening a gate to hell for their clan. Jacob's blood, stained by the curse, pulsed with the child's lullaby, a horrific testament to their price. The house fell silent, each breath harsh. In the rain's roar outside, 3 souls writhed for escape. They faced not just an unnatural child, but held the key to breaking a curse haunting their line. Could sacrificing Seela's life or the child's unlock freedom? Or was all effort futile against an arcane power beyond human grasp? Night stilled, rain pattering on the roof, the curse stronger than ever. In the last candle's flicker, Selah, Jacob, and Adeline's shadows stretched, weaving a tragic tapestry they knew life would never return to before. The child's eerie lullaby was a final revelation, heralding the birthing storm as merely the start of a long, wrenching saga where faith, hope, and maternal love were torn by the bloodline's merciless curse. In the 10th year, as dusk descended, the air grew dense under a pitch-black sky. Selah stood in the yard, barefoot on damp earth, icy winds whistling through door cracks, swirling swamp mist across the garden. She tilted her head, eyes glinting as if heeding an unseen call. It's coming. The whisper didn't rise from her lips but seemed to echo from deep within, where the strange life had lurked for years. The child without a name emerged in the old house like a miracle, or a curse spilling from the swamp's earth. In just 3 weeks, the eerie being gained strength to sit up, its tiny frame suddenly startlingly robust. At first it lay curled under a thin blanket, large eyes open, tracking raindrops pattering on the eaves. Then one day, it sat upright, babbling first sounds, stunning Selah and Jacob with awe. It didn't stop there. By 5 weeks, the child's voice was clear, chillingly so. Its murmurs weren't meaningless, but precise words repeating secrets none dared speak. One afternoon, as the last sunrays lingered on the swamp, a visitor, Jacob's childhood friend, shuddered when the child called his grandfather's name. A man long dead, buried under an ancient tree by a creek. The community recoiled, whispering of the river child, believing it bore the soul of the dark river itself, the curse of forgotten generations. News of the child's unnatural growth spread swiftly, New Orleans residents approaching Selah and Jacob with wary, fearful eyes. Many pulled their children indoors at the child's voice, recounting buried deaths, winds sweeping attics, unseen shadows gliding at night. Some believed each word was a meticulous piece of the river curse's puzzle, solvable only with blood and tears. Adeline, after sleepless nights on the porch, unable to bear the village's gossip and terrified stares, fled to her sister's home on the outskirts. As dusk fell, she refused to return to what was once her haven. The empty room, cold single bed, evoked that dark night's strange lullaby. Though the house still held Selah and the child, Adeline lacked the courage to face them. Jacob, the husband who once set her heart aflame, became a hollow shadow. He sat silent, eyes drifting over an old Bible's pages, each verse piercing his relentless guilt. When Adeline visited, he nodded hastily, then slipped to the yard's corner, where an old wooden chair bore Jacob Clan, carved. The oil lamp's light danced on walls, mirroring long cracks, like fractures in his heart, their once cherished home. Selah, in contrast, moved slower than ever. Each step etched the wet earth, her dress's hem brushing the doorstep mat. She spoke little, but often hummed faint melodies with the child. Her eyes grew strange, blazing with a distant ballad's echo, as if whispered from another realm. Sometimes, as Selah bowed, lips moving to the child's tune, Adeline saw not her usual pride, but doubt, surrender, as if Selah knew the child's nature better than anyone. Miracle or curse converged at the riverbank, where voodoo rites steeped in mystery. In the final ritual, Selah led the child to the water's edge, where the river flowed to the vast sea. Under silver moonlight, voodoo drums resounded, fragrant smoke curling around participants. The mermaid, seen only in Adeline's dreams, emerged silently amid shimmering ripples. Her gem-like eyes glowed, voice soft yet icy. Only sacrifice breaks the curse. The words echoed, stirring buried doubts in Adeline's heart. She stood frozen, heart stilled, a question bursting. Who would sacrifice? Selah, enduring physical, spiritual agony, or the child, nameless, yet to choose its fate? Amid the ritual's crowd, Jacob lingered behind an old palm, eyes vacant. He likely knew saving their clan's soul demanded a steep price. Adeline, torn by pain and regret, realized her love for Jacob had been clouded by jealousy, resentment. She recalled nights by the hearth, sharing simple dreams of tomorrow. Now that future lay buried under the curse's silt. She sensed without decisive action, the curse would sow more pain, fear for Selah, the child herself, Jacob's bloodline. In the ritual's solemn air, drums faded, leaving only water lapping the shore. The river lay calm, reflecting participants like a surreal painting. Selah knelt, facing the mermaid, expression grave. The child sat upright before her, deep eyes gazing at the cypress grove, where Adeline stood back, awaiting the decisive moment. Adeline stepped forward, footsteps soft on wet earth, all eyes turning. No more bitter tears, only surging resolve. She drew the small shell necklace from her neck, relic of magic and curse, raising it to the moonlight. "If sacrifice is needed," she whispered, voice resounding to soul's depths, "I offer myself to atone for this clan." In that moment, night winds swirled, carrying icy mist. Voodoo drums roared again, resonant, spreading. The mermaid rose at the riverbank, eyes brimming with compassion. Selah and the child turned, their gazes sparkling with hope. Jacob stepped forward, first embracing Selah, then lightly touching Adeline's forehead in gratitude. Then silence enveloped, as if the world exhaled. The shell necklace dropped into the water, melting into waves. The child parted its lips, voice soft. Freedom. One word, yet it dissolved all doubt. The river glittered, shattering into countless gleaming ripples, as if 1,000 waves sang, celebrating the curse's end. The ritual closed, participants withdrawing silently, bearing awe, renewed faith. Selah and Jacob clung together by the river, tears mixing with laughter. Adeline stood near, eyes meeting the child, tiny, yet brimming with life, hope. She smiled faintly, heart unburdened. They'd paid a price, but Kurt gained their clan's soul's cleansing. As dawn's first light glimmered, the river glowed gold under morning rays. The nameless child now cried truly, clear, pure, freed from the curse. Adeline gently lifted it, placing it in Selah's arms. The trio stood by the riverbank, gazing at the water flowing to the vast sea, where old tales lingered in the breeze. The river no longer whispered curses, only lapped gently at the shore. Souls beneath, freed from chains, drifted to their realm. Jacob's ancestors, long gone, surely rested in peace. And their clan, henceforth, could write its saga with laughter, joyful tears, not mournful prayers. Life returned to peace, but the curse's confrontation left a deep mark. Adeline looked at Selah, then the child in her arms, knowing true love must surpass jealousy, hatred. They'd learned sacrifice, forgiveness. As new season wines brought fresh silt scents, Jacob's clan knew, whatever the future held, they'd fear no ancient curses, for a brave heart had faced and paid to reclaim light. That night, the crescent moon hung indifferently, its silver shards scattering across the river's surface, blending with cold mist. The air was hauntingly still, broken only by water lapping the old boat's hull, palm leaves rustling in the dark. Adeline stood motionless before Selah and the child, hand clutching the glinting shell necklace, a relic of both hope and the grim curse spanning generations. The riverbank wavered in shadow, with only 3 figures. Selah, pale and weary, the child, lips blood red, skin paper thin, and Adeline, eyes fierce, tears mingling with dew. She parted her lips, voice trembling yet resolute. "Selah, I'll pay the price." Each word weighed on the air, winds ceasing, river waves stilling, as if witnessing the moment. Selah bowed her head, frail shoulders quaking, her first soft sobs escaping, tears wetting her gaunt cheeks, trailing long. She wiped them hastily, grasping Adeline's hand, seeking a final anchor. "Adeline, you don't have to do this. I can bear the pain, but you—" Selah choked, lips moving soundlessly, but Adeline's heart was harder than ever. She drew a deep breath, forcing herself to the water's edge, where the mermaid once appeared amid stormy nights. Her steps touched cold water, a strange warmth spreading through her calves. Moonlight's shattered glints on the river seemed to sing a triumphal hymn for the sacrifice to come. Adeline raised the shell necklace to her chest, voice echoing with urgent fervour. "Spirit of the river, I beg forgiveness for Jacob's ancestors' sins. They destroyed your sacred temple, bound the river, broke vows of reverence. Today I offer you this necklace, vessel of sin and blood, praying the river be cleansed." In that instant, winds surged fiercely, water crashing against her feet, the bank trembling with longing. A blinding light erupted from the river's depths, pure white, spreading across the shore. Adeline felt an unseen force seize her, hands loosening, the shell necklace drifting from her neck, hovering in the water. The light pierced the surface, touching her and Sila, linking mortal and supernatural realms in a sacred moment. The next morning, as dawn's first rays slanted through palm fronds, Sila woke on the old guest room bed. She started, feeling her belly flat, the mysterious orb gone. Her trembling hand brushed the sweat-soaked cloth from the night before, eyes scanning around. On the mattress, amid chaotic traces, lay a lone shell, pristine white, uncracked, as if testifying to a vow fulfilled. Jacob entered, eyes heavy with sleepless hours. Seeing Sila safe, he sobbed, embracing her in overwhelming relief. "Sila, you're back," he whispered. Her shoulders shook with his tears, her heart warming after days taut as a bowstring. Adeline, watching from the doorway, felt her body freed from crushing gloom. She smiled quietly, unwilling to disturb the young couple's joy. Then she turned, leaving the weathered house, its walls steeped in secrets, fears. But as she stepped toward the swamp, Adeline paused, hearing a faint lullaby echoing from deep within. Not Sila's, but the river's. A song of the soul she'd merged with in the midnight sea. The lullaby beckoned, gentle yet poignant, welcoming one who chose sacrifice to atone. New Orleans community whispered that Adeline gave her life to break the curse. They didn't know exactly what transpired in that stormy night. Only Sila and Jacob saw it all. Rumours raced. Some said Adeline vanished in a white water surge. Others claimed she became part of the river, sinking to guard swamp secrets. But whatever the truth, the pure shell on the tattered mat proved a life was traded. Blood and sacrifice altered Jacob's clan's fate. Sila, now bearing a new secret, sat by the river, quietly chronicling the family's tale. She wrote of the shell necklace, Adeline's shadowy figure stepping into the river amid the storm, the wondrous lullaby rising from the depths. Ink-soaked pages held her vow, never let darkness return, preserve hope's light for generations. The moral echoed through each line. Love and sacrifice can shatter the deepest curses, but the cost is never small. Adeline learned that cleansing the past sometimes demands the present. Sila understood great duty requires fierce courage. Closing the notebook, eyes on the calm river under dawn's light, Sila whispered, "The next chapter awaits." Beneath eternal silt, the water murmured tales of souls saved by love, sacrifice. Did Adeline truly vanish, or become one with the river's soul? Where did the child go? Subscribe to African Tales, share this story with friends and family in America, and comment your thoughts. Would you dare face your own curse?